Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Growing Up Alien. And I have a bit of an update, which I was going to air yesterday, but could not access Zoom. So, yeah, that's why. Today, I have Zoom back. And yeah, this was not expecting any of this stuff to kind of manifest, actually. So, interesting events that are happening, in on this planet are kind of lining up with the vision remote view I was given the other morning. Um, Yeah, and I know it's very polarizing for a lot of people, but I think, as one of our members had mentioned, you really have to take a step back and not react and analyze things because it's probably not what you think when you only have narrow view of a situation or an overly personalized view of a situation, which we all do. I mean, not no judgment as always. Every single person is often, and I think you have to catch yourself. So, and this is something that again, I was talking to my friend Louise about some of this stuff, and she says, you really got to think about how you relate to others, particularly, in our arena. And just because you hear information about somebody doesn't mean it's actually right. And you really can't tell who somebody is or who somebody isn't based upon what you're hearing from this crazy circus that we're in. And that's so true because I told her, I said, I don't want you, I'm kind of been leery about mentioning you to Michael because I just don't want a lot of people to attack you. And it's unfair because, I know I've known you for so long and we know each other and it's kind of like I just think it would be really offensive and people just don't know somebody and I think that's the problem. So I've been attacked and I don't really care, but sure, if you wanted to find some dirt on me, it's out there. Is it real? No. I mean and I can't say one way or the other, it's not real or not. But this is why so many people don't come forward in our community because we attack each other. And for sure, there's people out there who are in this for the money, who are in this for the fame that you can now achieve. But it is what it is. So the people that I handpick, I trust them, and more likely than not, they're all simply just regular people who want to, and that's kind of what I really want. I'm not anti people who are well known for by any stretch of the imagination. But I like to bring forward people who aren't well known because there's so many of us, and I think that's the flood that we need, where it isn't the same people all the time. You have if we can get thousands of people, probably millions who have been abducted, contactees, whatever. I thought it was kind of funny. You think about the book Communion, right? That fellow could do an interview with Ika because they both were abducted by Grace. So it isn't just Earth people that are abducted. Extraterrestrials are abducted as well. And Lorraine McAdam, who we've had on the show, she was abducted once by Grace, and another extraterrestrial woman was abducted along with her. So, and you hear stories from Rebecca Rose, all these people. They were regularly interacting with extraterrestrials. Many innocent extraterrestrials who also found themselves with Terrans in these really terrible situations. So, anyway, going back to what I'm going to try to link together. I don't know. Like I said, I just think these pieces kind of fit. I may be, wrong. I guess as always, you never know. But it was just strange that all of it kind of dumped at once. So the first thing I heard was the Vatican has just released, and it's on my. I'll put links to all these things in the description so you can go to the original source. But the Vatican has just released an update as to how you should relate to kind of supernatural, paranormal type things. It's sort of a new update. Um, I don't feel a need to relay it here because I mean, it's just nonsense anyway, right? I mean, but it's for people who are into that kind of stuff. Assisting the average religious person to, what is the official stance of this particular church. So that was interesting that they just did an update. I suspect that a lot of these formerly nefarious type groups and organizations and individuals Many are going to jump ship and change sides. So you're going to have some go Jedi and some who used to be Sith, now they're Jedi. I'll just use these terms on YouTube. Um, I don't think too many Jedi will go Sith, but some have, some will. Bad idea at this point, but a lot of these openly and very well-known Sith institutions, not only the entire institution, but individuals in these institutions are going to go Jedi. Does that mean that they actually are? I mean, probably not in most cases, but some might actually, feel liberated and move over. This is a very ET way of handling criminal behavior, where it isn't so much of an incarceration thing. We just grab somebody and throw them in prison. Usually, what they'll do is um, take these individuals and try to reform them, or they not force reform, but make that as an option. Would you like to not be Sith? Would you like to go on the happy side? And we'll, and when you do, we'll be able to integrate you back into society. It's easy upstairs because they know whether or not somebody is still like, yeah, I'm great. No, no, you're not. No, no, go back over there. Go back over there. So I think this is what you may see. At this point in the liberation of Earth, I suspect they're trying to mitigate significant discord. And I agree with that. I mean, I don't think we should stagnate everything I mean, again, these are just my opinions. They have no weight whatsoever. But we shouldn't like stagnate the whole process and kill like millions of people simply because you don't want to have, because there's going to be some just right now living on this planet, there's people dying for no reason. So I think they have to weigh. Again, this is just my opinion and no weight, but I don't see why it's so important to sort of like fear negative consequences when negative consequences are actually going on right now. So that doesn't, people are dying now. The longer you wait, the more will die. So it's kind of like I don't see the argument per se. Anyway, maybe they've actually come to a situation where it seems like it's a good idea to start moving stuff ahead. All right, I don't know. So there is that. That's the one thing that popped out, which was quite interesting. The Vatican, like I said, I think, see, this is the thing with the religions. You can't wipe out all the religions because a lot of people are not going to be okay with that. They're not going to be able to handle that. Their entire world and way of living is based upon doctrines because they can't think for themselves. Let's be realistic. That's what I'm right. If you're afraid, not that they can't, they've been told they can't, so they believe they can't. And it would just be a massive ontological fear response. Some would go, it would be a total tits up, batshit crazy situation. So if we can somehow transform these religions into a more Jedi type situation, which I think is happening, then you can maintain a bunch of people who want to be with, and that's not controlling people. That's the biggest thing too. You're not controlling people. You're not saying you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't, you take somebody's, 85-year-old aunt and who's clutching the rosary beads and, oh, no, that's all fake. You can't have that anymore. It's a lot for somebody at that age to process. Not everybody, my 93-year-old mom totally 100% processed everything. So, it depends on the person. So those who can process, no worries. Those who can't process, that's the problem. So, I don't think it's fair, and it's again, in my opinion, to force new beliefs onto someone who isn't ready, who's like an 85-year-old, whatever. There's nothing wrong with them, and they're not bad people. Just because somebody has a religion doesn't make that person a bad person. That's just common sense. So let's try to smoothly move things forward. Of course, beings on other planets also have religions. Any kind of belief about life after death or whatever they're talking about, that's all religion. There's no way to prove that. So what's the difference? That's just, again, my opinion, but I think it looks like that's what they're going to try to do is move things that way. Nothing will be 100% successful, I don't think, simply because there's so much polarity, which again, I wanted to mention is, there's so much discord, so much polarity, so much finger pointing, so much hatred, all that kind of crap. Anyway, and I have my you people shirt on. Thank you, Linda. Right. You people. So I'm wearing that today. Yeah, because people are the problem. So obviously, right. Yeah, you got the cabal and all that stuff, but you got people who went along with it and supported it, and now you got, it's people who's the problem. So The night before my vision, we were we were sitting outside, and my friend Patrick and I do this quite a few days a week, and we saw a TR-3B and then several crafts that came by, and one craft was like nuts. It was one of the big flasher types, and it flashed 4 times, massive flashes, like lit up like a whole section of sky while it flashed and moved down the wherever it was going. Um, so yeah, I asked it to like, did you flash? And it flashed again. So we had a big shippy event the night before I had these divisions. So that morning, yeah, I don't know if you can hear Jesse. Some people may notice sounds. I'll just say that was Jesse. Some of those, usually the sounds are Jesse. Um, so that morning, I like, oh, okay, I got locked into a vision. I'm not sleeping. I don't ever give anything that comes from like dream state. This is all like I'm awake and it's a vision that I get handed, shown. It's basically a remote view. I don't like to use the word vision because that sounds kind of weird, but it's I end up being seen in my mind, behind my eyes, very clear movie of something that's happening. So this was looked like somewhere in Washington, in a Capitol building or congressional, I don't know, some building where lots of these Senate, Congress political figures were all gathering together in a group. And then they flashed me RFK. So I'm like, okay. So the other ones I didn't really recognize. They all, don't care about government. So, but they pulled out RFK a few times. They're like, okay, see, I'm like, okay, he's central to some of this. And then they showed me like a regular hospital and maybe an emergency room. They have those curtains that separate all the sections or whatever it is. And then there was this male nurse doc, I don't know what is male figure, that's a medical figure or whatever. And he had a really nasty like smirk on his face, like, and he was holding a syringe. So I said, what I'm guessing this is not good. And they're like, no. And I said, what is it? And it's I suspect what they were showing me was uh, the nefarious events that go on, that are going on in these situations. So in these institutions like that, the contemporary Western industrial complexes that have to do with things like hospitals and whatever, who are YouTube, who are, fomenting lots of issues. So now I understand what they were trying to say there and the connection with the RFK. So it looks like what they are actually trying to do is to expose the nasty. That's why they kind of showed me this over the top character there, like, almost an Addams Family type vibe to it, which is, the reality, I think, in those places. You want to maintain um you want to maintain no health. So the more you have bunches of people, as you can see, the whole situation. So this is kind of what I was getting in this remote view was that you have an entire situation where no health is actually encouraged and facilitated by the environment, by food, by water, by all that stuff, by the things that people like to take, that they go to these stores and buy all these things that they take, in all kinds of forms of farmies, big farm that people are, being literally, unhealthy with. So that's what they were trying to show me. So there's an exposure of that. Um, and then it kind of um, made sense to some of these other actual events that are happening. So, um, lastly, I was given a song, and it's the Nick Crenshaw song, Wouldn't It Be Good? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I can't actually show that here, but I recommend people, I'll put a link to you. So you have to watch the video. So I read the lyrics. And when Nick originally wrote the song, he hadn't really intended for the music video, to be what it was. So when they created the music video, they made it as an ET. So they thought, oh, this is going to be an alien. And he's living on Earth. And he's just, wouldn't it be nice if, we would have, or I could have, the alien would say, I could have a better way of living than what I'm actually dealing with here on Earth. So in the music video, YouTube always gives me strikes if I show any of this stuff, but like I said, I'll put a link in there. So, okay, so I read the lyrics and like, yeah, that makes sense. So it really sounds like so there's an alien living on Earth when and it sounds like what we as the envoys are going through, you know. Um, you don't know how hard I got it. It's terrible here. You got it's better where you are. You got it better. You don't know how bad it is for me. So, in the music video, there's this obvious extraterrestrial man, humanoid, played by Nick, walking and singing, obviously, and he's always being harassed. This is a total, I mean, they captured the envoy experience where you feel like there's a spotlight on you and the nefarious, regressive Terrans being nefarious and regressive all around you. Um, and you're trying to just get away from, you can't deal with it anymore. So he goes to his apartment and he's just, this is, I can't deal with it anymore. So he has different devices, that extraterrestrial devices in his apartment, and he's broadcasting back saying, I can't deal with this anymore. Well, at the end of the video, he gets a signal on his device, and that's his signal. Say, oh, okay. So he grabs another little tiny device, handheld device, and he runs out of his apartment, runs by all these really nasty, regressive, I don't know, like almost film noir type Terrans. And he finally makes it out to where there's this kind of like a satellite dish and all this strange, things happen. So he's standing there, he's happy as a clam now, has his device, and he gets teleported back home. So I'm like, oh wow, is this extraction? Because that's what that was. This extraterrestrial living on Earth, having a terrible experience, crying and praying to heavens, this is horrible. Get me the hell out of here. I can't take it anymore. You guys, you have to understand. You don't understand what I'm going through. All that same story. And he gets the signal. This is it. So, is there a message in this here for us in this one song? And I did not expect this from this song. I haven't heard this song. It's 1984. I haven't thought of this song, heard of the song ever. They always give me these 80s. I think there's a lot of messages because the 80s was a hotbed between the cabal, the CIA, the Majestic 12, all the bad guys, right? And the benevolent extraterrestrials. Because we've shifted from the main contactee, Adamski, Menger, blah, blah, blah era into sort of what the hell do we do now? This heavy starseed era with the telepathic communication rather than direct communication. And that came in the, there was a slide in because you still had Billy Meyer and of course Alex Collier. You have a slide in from the 70s, 80s and onwards where they were phasing out the direct contact and phasing in the telepathic contact because the direct contact was bombing, wasn't working. The psyops from the counterintelligence agencies were really killing all of the contactees by creating their own stories. There was a massive infiltration of the contactee arena during the 70s and 80s with a lot of this new age channeler type stuff. And that was using reptilian and gray technology. So you had a lot of these people during this time period that were talking to Pleiadians, that were talking to Arcturians, that were talking to Andromedans, that weren't talking to any of them, but they were creating these cult organizations that were based upon what the gray tech was doing with the military here. So it was getting really dangerous at the time. So the extraterrestrials, the benevolents, were trying to force information through. And you still had your crop circles, but those were being taken down as well. But they try to keep feeding information and contact and ship sightings at the same time while the community was being fed tabloid stuff and people were being hijacked. So I'm not saying any of these people were bad people. They weren't. So when you have this extremely clear channeling of entire books and unbelievably vivid type telepathy and channeling, that's kind of your red flag. Not always, but generally. And if they're giving weird information and talking about like saints and all that kind of stuff, I think there was one book that had like Karl Marx on a ship, really weird, like Wizard of Oz meets Alice in Wonderland type stories, entire books that were being fed that were, oh, I'm talking to the Pleiadians. No, you're not. Um, that was all CIA stuff, and they were massively pushing this in the 70s and 80s into the 90s as well. And it was a tough time, and I think that's why they were using a lot of the 80s. Like, why 80s music? I mean, I know the hell like 80s music because it's just it's like it's their thing, but it's like there was definitely an interesting reason as to why that was being pushed. I remember when I was a very small child that I was being compelled to listen and watch to different things, particularly Star Wars. That was one thing. Battlestar Galactica. There were certain things they led me away from Star Trek. I was very no. They said no, no, and I did not like Star Trek, and I think I know why, because Star Trek was basically Solar Warden, where those were the bad guys. I don't know what they're doing now. They were the bad guys when I was growing up. They were the ones that were torturing and abducting me. So I think this is why I had such a really negative. I hate it. I generally kind of liked. I used to watch a lot of sci-fi with my father, who liked it. My father was a Pleiadian starseed, but for some reason, Star Trek. No, I couldn't stand Star Trek. And I think it was that because it's basically Earth beings in space. So it's like, yeah, I know about the Earth military and Earth beings in space, and they ain't no bueno. So that's probably why. But anyway, that I suspect this is why a lot of 80s music is fed with this stuff. And even 70s too as well. So this Nick Crenshaw, is this a benevolent thing? Is this showing us that, hey, we're going to get extracted? I don't know. That's what it showed me. So you can watch the video, and maybe you can get a different interpretation out of this. They just show something and walk away. But anyway, it is curious that then I'm going to pull this up. I know this is the controversial. You've seen it a million times, but anyway, pull it up in case somebody hasn't seen it. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. Um, so Trump, not Trump, and I'm just going to play it, then we'll talk about it.
Announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
All right, I'm just going to stop that. You've all seen it a million times. So, obviously, there's no accidents, and it has nothing to do with this guy Trump. Those are figureheads. They don't actually do anything. That's just common sense. There's a massive intel organization behind these people, and it always blows my mind that people actually believe there's a one politician that actually runs a country. That's insane. That is not the case anywhere, even Russia. It's like, if you actually think that, you do you. There is a massive think tank that actually runs countries, and of course it's been cabal. Now, is it still cabal? I don't know. Are we at a break stage where they've actually pushed enough, where we're seeing a shift? I don't know. I'm just putting together the information that I received. So the think tank that's running the United States right now, just take Trump out of the picture. I don't know why people are so obsessed with that, as he's got nothing to do with anything. There's clones and everything. You don't even know who the hell. And yes, that video was AI. Doesn't matter. Why would they spend a lot of time, by the way? People have to think. Just like if you're looking at a picture from, say, 1980 or 1970s, or a video from the 1970s. It's extremely difficult to fake stuff in the 1970s. In fact, for the average person, it's nearly impossible to fake something that would be believable. Particularly like to fake an image of a craft with the warp drive. I don't even think that's possible to do in the 1970s. Even film. I don't think I've ever seen that in film. Whoever posted this, the group, the think tank behind what is the Trump institution. They spent a lot of time putting this together. So this was planned, obviously. This isn't something they just pulled up and used. They don't just pull stuff out of thin air or off of some schmuck on the internet and say, oh, let's use, they do not do this. We're talking about an intergalactic industrial military corporation that runs the United States and that runs all of the different planets here. Now, who is in charge of it? That's the question. Has it shifted? I don't know. But a video like this that was not leaked, there is no way a government think tank now would leak anything by accident. The cat didn't walk across Trump's cell phone and post a video. That's insane. Trump does not have access to social media. And if you think he just sits there with his little phone and no, you're insane. No. That doesn't even make it, makes no sense. They would never allow that. So these are only figureheads. So in this think tank, they decided to create this video that is explaining in a very Terran way advanced technology that already exists on this planet. Why would they do that? It was pulled, so that was on purpose. They didn't, oh, people are going to pull it. They don't have any fear. These people have no fear. They're not pulling it because they're afraid. So they post the video for a little while. Then once it takes traction, they then removed it. So that was a technique that was done on purpose. The video itself, I think this is quite brilliant. It's a very brilliant psychological technique that they're using here. So how can you, and here's the main question that we've been talking about, how can you bring this tech forward where millions of people, billions of people can see it? And at this point, probably billions. And that's been our biggest hurdle. How do we reach, right? And it's basically impossible because the mainstream media is never going to, it has been carrying a few things here and there, which is curious. They have been mentioning Three Eye Atlas. My aunt actually, I don't watch any news whatsoever. So anytime this stuff comes to me, it's from one of you guys sharing it with me. I watch no news. I have no intel from outside. I'm not interested. So my aunt, she's, oh my gosh, she says, the UFOs that you like. She says CNN just mentioned something about UFOs and Three Eye Atlas, a UFO. Right? I'm like, well, that's interesting. Why would they do that? Because you would expect them to sort of, oh, it's nothing, nothing to see here, right? But anyway, excuse me. This is a very carefully created piece. So you want to analyze all this stuff, not with a knee-jerk reaction. I don't like Trump. I don't care. Who cares? Has no meaning to me whatsoever. He's not a hero. No, there's no Terran is my hero. In fact, no one is my hero at this point, right? I mean, just be your own hero. I have no interest in governments. I have no interest in politicians. I have no interest in any of these people. I do have an interest in getting the hell out of here. That's the only thing I care about, getting out of here. So anything that that is the only, that is my every single day. That is all I want to do. So, interesting, right? We need, and I've said this before, and I've said it upstairs, and I'm sure they know, not that it matters, because who the hell cares who I am? I've said it and said it and said it. We need the military and we need the government to bring something forward because the people on this planet are way too far brainwashed. They're way too far gone. They are a lost cause. There is no way they're going to believe anything we say. And I largely suspect that even this drop, it's a seed, basically. So I don't think it's your average person is walking down the street even noticed it. This is the thing. You can fly ships over people, and you've probably seen this. I know one of my friend Evan has seen this, where a massive craft will fly over. No one sees it. No one's looking up. No one cares. I don't even think your average person, if you mention aliens to them, they're like, oh, I don't care. What do I care about aliens? I don't care. They have no idea, and it's not their fault, that what we're talking about will change their world. We're talking about a new economic system, a new government system, a new healthcare system, a new everything system, that their life will be so much better. They have no idea. You can't even imagine. They have no sense of understanding. And the reason that life is so hard for us here is because we know what life can be. Life can be beautiful. Life can be bliss. Life can be surrounded by a love that you can't imagine. That's a love that you've never felt here. That, your body works. Your body ages very slowly. You don't have sickness generally. You don't have anything like that. Food is fresh. Water is clean. The way you clean yourself is amazing. You don't have any of those problems. Life is enjoyed. There's no worry. You can live that life, a perfect life. And they don't understand that here in this literal Stone Age. And all the aspects that make life here so unbelievably painful for us, as in the Nick Crenshaw video. um, they don't understand. So there has to be a way in which we can kind of slap their faces with this information. And I think that video did a really good job because it was showing in a very mainstream way, clever. Don't make it just look like Trump sitting in front of a computer saying, "Hey, medbeds, blah blah blah," right? Have it where there's a news broadcast from a respected news program by many Terrans, Fox, they like that. So you got to remember, this is all psyops. So we're trying to reach your average American. And that changes. So your average American where I live here in Massachusetts is completely different from a Nebraska, is completely different from Georgia, Alabama, completely different. Your New Englander has got nothing in common unless you go into the country. So if you deal with the real old-fashioned farmers, they have a lot more in common with Nebraska and Alabama. But your middle class, upper class New Englander is a whole nother universe. And they'll not be reached by any of this. That's not going to reach them. They're still watching CNN. So, but what we need to reach is the average American, the average Joe. This appeals to them. So Fox News is something they like. They respect it. So that's a great idea. So you have to get outside yourself. You can't be, oh, I don't like Fox. It doesn't matter if you don't like Fox News. We're trying to reach the majority of people here in this country. Because it is likely that the United States, while England's going through a shit show right now, I don't know what the fuck's going on in England. So the United States is going to be one of the main pop-off centers, I think, for this, whether you like it or not. And that's why we're here. I've rarely incarnated in the United States. I don't like it here. I have nothing in common. So there's probably a reason why there's a lot of star seeds here. England, right? Where they're placed, I think, is where the majority of star seeds are placed. Brazil is I think where a lot of this stuff. So Brazil's had a lot of ET. Mexico's had a lot of ET contact as well. So this was extremely well done. It's very calm, not weird. The way the med beds were explained, you're going to have this wonderful new technologies coming out. We have new technology. It isn't like there's some extraterrestrial technology. It's like it was done very well. I think your average person will largely ignore it. It'll be, I almost feel like this is my sensation when I kind of remote view how this hits. One, it hits them where they kind of just goes over the head. They don't care. It's just another newsreel. So the average person, but it sits because the seed is there where they hear the word medbed. And then you have your uber conspiracy theorists who are going down 500 rabbit holes, and that's fine. They'll always keep going down rabbit holes. They'll never stop. And then you have us who know all about this stuff going, what the fuck? Right? There's us who are like, we've been in med beds. We know all about them. We have them back home. We're like, what the hell was that? But we're a small percentage. Okay, so the ET contactees, small percentage of society. Did it reach the large side of society? Possibly. I think it did a good job. And it kind of, see, what's going to happen is once this tech rolls out, everything as you know it crashes. So I would tell you that there's lots of people in different industries that are very afraid of losing their jobs. So you're going to have a real problem with this. So we'll take the medical industry, right? We don't have doctors on Era. You don't need them. They're obsolete, right? So all of this is going to be obsolete. Not right away, but eventually. All you need are the machine does all the work, everything. I don't know much about. I'm going to do a separate podcast about healthcare on Era. I don't know much about it because we don't really ever need it. I've never used it. So your med bed is usually reserved, is only accidents, right? So we still would have accidents that can happen. I'm not familiar with anyone having an accident. Ika's you'd laugh at me trying to kill him. No, is so I don't know how that would, again, there are people who understand, that would be like a doctor that would understand how to help someone to get them, keep them alive until you get to a med bed, that kind of thing. But we do have accidental deaths as well. I mean, that happens too. Once you're dead, you're dead. So, but most people don't go to med beds. It's not there. You just don't need to. Why would you use that? I mean, if you have any little weird thing that you think is popping up, you go and generally use like a Bach flower water. There's remedies that are used to mitigate some of this stuff. We're not poisoned. So, you know, that's a very helpful thing, not to be injected with poison, not to eat poison, not to drink poison, and not to be uh, subjected to manufactured diseases. So that's a plus. You actually, that's the thing on Earth. The diseases are created. Um, it's not normal. It's not natural, right? So being poisoned and being given things is a real problem here. So yeah, the med beds are going to be in big demand. And interesting, the med bed they showed. So when Ika was injured in the battle, so that he ended up going to a non-extraterrestrial facility is on the base. So they have a healing chamber there. It's not ET in what I've ever seen. It looked like an MRI machine. That was the biggest thing. So that's what he used to heal his leg. So it's kind of like looked like an MRI. It's very strange looking. I've never seen a med bed look this. I don't know what the med beds here are going to look like. I imagine there'd be all kinds of different ones. Um, but the technology will not be extraterrestrial in the sense of extraterrestrial, because it's going to be run. Well, I think you'll have a lot of extraterrestrials assisting initially, but your average human would have no idea how to use this stuff. So I don't think that. So the real ET stuff, it won't be that. It'll be kind of a hybrid, so that the humans can actually, right, whatever the things on this planet, the backwards society, can actually kind of mentally understand how this shit works. So anyway, that's my perspective on that. So I covered most of what I wanted to say. The other thing I want to just mention, I'll bring up a video. It's some neat photos from Italian man and on contact, Maurizio Cavallo. So as I've mentioned, there is no first contact. That's all bullshit. There's no first contact. First contact's already there's never been first contact. You're floating on a planet in space. You're an extraterrestrial on this planet. There are other planets. There are hundreds of thousands of different species. There are thousands of different species, other universes, layers of universe. So there's the idea of a first contact doesn't make any sense to me. And like it's already happened. They've been here. You're controlled by them now. It's like a lot of people already had first contact, like legit, right? With those grays and reptilians. So yeah, you enjoyed that. But your average person is already experiencing first contact, not only with the envoys and the starseeds, but in the walk-ins, whatever you want to call them, but with actual people who have been born on other planets. In fact, some people have had contact with inner Earth beings, so they just don't step forward. So there are people who are not born on this planet, living, working, as of course you will, that, working amongst us now. I'm going to show you a picture. This is from Maurizio Cavallo. So Maurizio Cavallo was in contact with people from Clarion, which is about 150,000 light years from Earth. You have Venusians here. You have Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, Pleiadian. All the different types of humanoids that can pass here. So Semjase just mentioned a year ago in the spring that thousands more were being stuck back down, being inserted amongst us as well. So It is no, and of course many of you have not only met Ika, you talk to him, you're hanging out with him, is awesome, right? So it's in your own context as well. So um, this is I like this. I mean, she did. Paola Harris, of course, is renowned, especially her work with Billy Meyer. Really cool, great job. Great. Reminds me of Linda Moulton Howe. Super cool. So these photos, Maurizio took of his friends who, just like this, reminds me very much of Stefano Brezza and mass contacts and Macizia. So my family comes from Ascoli Piceno, which is where some of the bases were in Pescara. They were the bases for the W-56s, they call themselves. So the mass contacts of the extraterrestrials living. So Italy has a lot of extraterrestrials living and working amongst the population, and so does the United States. And just like Stefano Brescia, Maurizio Cavallo was in contact with these people, but they were from Clarion. And his book is Beyond the Heavens. I'll put that again in the descriptions. But I'm going to pull up a video here. This is with Paola Harris explaining her final meeting with Maurizio. She wasn't going to meet with him because she's like, yeah, is this guy the real deal or whatever? So, most people are. They're not really going to say I'm talking to ETs if they weren't. So that always, it's just too hard to fake that kind of stuff. It would be a lot. There are people who fake it for sure, 100%. And I think the government fakes most of it, but yeah, it's rare that someone would. What would be in it for you to fake this? So, there are, like I said, there are. But he had photographs he took of these people, and they're walking the street, working. So this one man works at a bank, and he brought her to meet him, and he lives there and with a family and other people from Clarion, and she talks about how they live in a regular house and they have a little garden in the back. We love fresh food, so they had a little garden. They made sure of that. But yeah, I'm gonna play that. Let me pull this up. You can see what they look like and what to look for. Here she is. All right.
Story. The third time, because I wasn't convinced, right. I don't just do a story. The third time he said to me, Paula, my contact's well, and you have an image of him, works.
So that's typical. This is a friend of Maurizio. His name is Suel, and he worked at a bank and lived there with other people. So this is what, now they all don't look alike. This guy has dark hair, some of them blonde, red, what you name it. But this is this is a photograph. This is not AI. This is typical. And again, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys have all been in contact with many extraterrestrials, probably your husband and wife. And you know what they look like. So this guy from Clarion, again, this is not a Pleiadian, though likely they probably are of an offshoot. You kind of look a little more like the tall. The Pleiadians have larger eyes by their face structure, but this is what, they're very smooth, human color skin, different, again, depending if you're tall or whatever. Some of them are quite dark. Some extraterrestrials are black skin. We would consider African, absolutely, 100%. Some are a lot paler than this guy. But this is a typical, very chiseled, very smooth skin. But the thing with them is that when they make contact with you, it's such a loving experience. It's such they just hold space for you when they look at you. It's almost unbearable. It's hard to process. And that's why a lot of people have a lot of emotion when you first meet someone so full of love like this. It's really, really, and people say, "Oh, I've met people from now." You haven't met anything like, you haven't. Yeah, but I met this Buddhist. Nope, nope, no. It's an entirely different experience. So that's Suel.
In a bank in Rome, and he picked me up in a car. We went to a villa in Tuscany. He said there were the beings, beautiful looking beings. The women were very beautiful, and the men were looked like models almost. And so these people were growing their own vegetables in this villa. And I said, Mauricio, you sat down with these people? He said, yeah. He says, now, Paula, you've come back 3 times. He said, I'm going to show you something I haven't shown anybody. He said, Suel, my contact 10 years ago, said there was an American journalist that's going to come and see you. We call her the bridge. You can show her those.
So Sewell told Maurizio 10 years before. He says, Maurizio, you're gonna, as an American woman's gonna come. She's a journalist. He said, she's gonna interview you. So he already warned him of it.
Photos, and he said, I did what I was told. I kept them in a drawer. And when he showed me these pictures,
and now we're taking a look right now.
I said,
tell us what we're seeing in these photos.
You're seeing different beings aboard ship. He said it was a federation, but
there you go. Yeah. And he talking about, we're not, I'm not preaching to the choir, federation. So I always recommend people, if you go back through all of your original contact texts, Adamski, Menger, Billy Meyer, and a contactee in Massachusetts that worked with the Corendi, also Stefano Brescia in his book Mass Contacts, you will see the actual story of the militarization of Earth and what would happen in these bases. So there are benevolent extraterrestrial bases around the planet. And that's not anything modern. You don't have to look at any of these modern sketch celebrity ET people. You don't have to listen to any of that stuff. All of this stuff has already been told through many different books by these original contactees. And there are mentions of federations, and that is because you're in them. So you've been in contact yourself, you're on the ships, you know all about these federations. So what Maurizio was told was to show the pictures that there are groups of extraterrestrials that are working with us here to try to, clean up this garbage bin.
So did Eugenio Siracusa said that the visitations aboard ship, there were different types of peoples from different planets.
So of course, we know the ships have all different races and species on them. So actually, these pictures are great. This being here, she looks a little bit like some of our kids, to be fair. Ika's children, not ours, not mine. Well, they're not genetically mine. They're ours, but they're Ika's genetics. That second girl in looks a lot like the little girls that we have. They look something like this because they're part gray, so they have the smaller mouth and they have kind of a bigger head, something like this. But they have beautiful blonde hair and they look a lot like Ika. But if you notice the eyes, the big almond eyes, that's more characteristic. The ones on the bottom are too big. These are not a hell, by the way. The one on the bottom, the blue, the really, if you want to, I think, zoom in, go, and I'll put a link to the original. And you can see these pictures from Clarion. You can see these all over the internet, so you can find, real nice quality photos that were from Maurizio Cavallo, Beyond the Heavens. His book is Beyond the Heavens. But this is a little bit more common. I think that the one there on the top left of the screen, she'd be a little more a hell. So we do have large eyes. It's just mind blowing when to look into them. Is you can't, like, I can't even look Ika in the eyes. It's insane. It's nuts. That's like, but yeah, and there's some great. These are not AI. These are actual people
that had a mandate to come here for various reasons. And Sewell and the little Clarion girl and a couple of other of the beings work among the regular people. And you can,
on Earth.
On Earth. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm going to recommend a book called They Are Here, Visitors Without Passport.
So there's another
story. The third time.
Losing control of my video. Yeah, and for sure. They've been here for a very long, forever. I mean, it's like, people got to get away from that, like, them coming here, like, no, Earth is just a planet. What we're trying to do is finally lift the enemy off this planet so that we can open up Earth people to, and there are Earth people all over the place already, but I mean to open it up, open up the idea, open up the experience, open up the capacity to leave this place and to go to other places if you so wish, and to clean up this place. And that's, as Paola mentioned here, as was told to Maurizio, that, there are many extraterrestrials, you guys watching this, myself, that came here to fix this place. And I think that's why we're so angry and frustrated. And it's like, we came here, we put our life on hold, we went through freaking hell. Most of us killed ourselves anyway. And it's like, what are we doing? what are we doing? We don't want to just sit here. We don't want to just sit here and every day do stupid stuff with no end in sight. And it needs to be there needs to be an end in sight. And maybe this is it. Maybe this is it, right? All those schmucks that went to Quantico, what's going on? What seems to be going on? Is it all a smoke and mirrors game again? Is it the real deal? I don't know. There's a lot of aspects to this and what I was shown in my remote view and I was given this remote view. I didn't go on a remote view. These are the ones I tend to like kind of hold on to more than some of the other ones. Why would they show me these random things like this? And especially, and I think if anything, that song really resonated for us. I'll put the video link below. Maybe that's Extraction. Maybe we're gonna get the hell out of here. I don't know. So anyway, here we are. Let's see where the coming days and months, and hopefully not too long. I don't know, these visions you don't know, right? I mean, they gave me a vision of me living on a ship with Ika in this body. So when that was about 2 years ago. So why would they show that? I don't know. Hopefully that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. But anyway, as it is, keep an eye out for stuff, guys. Share in the comments what you're getting, anybody that's been giving information, whatever, and we'll see where this goes. So all right, we will see you upstairs. Fudging with my